Alright guys, welcome back to Engineering Major Philosophy Minor. Of course, if you're new here, EMPM is the spot where you can get a working aerospace engineer's opinions on topics pertaining to engineering, philosophy, politics, and various other social issues. And of course, in a lot of videos, a lot of those things are actually going to be combined into one kind of thing. And that's what I want to do in this video. So this is going to be the first, kind of actual piece of content that I make since kind of shifting my stuff over to locals. And today we're going to be reading some more passages from the Gulag Archipelago right here. This is volume 1. And let's see here. A couple things I want to just say. So the way this is going to work is on YouTube, what you guys will see is literally just me reading the text, no interpretation, no correlation or relevancy to other current events, and kind of no assessment, let's say, of kind of like an engineering or, kind of scientific or statistics-driven analysis. But if you go over to locals, I'm going to post the full video where I will actually pause at different points in the text, or I will analyze the text afterwards. And if you guys are interested in hearing what the analysis is, then head over to locals. This is going to be totally free on locals as well. But if you guys watched the last video I posted, the reason I'm going over to locals is so that I can talk about a little bit more genuine opinions that I have about things, about topics that, honestly might necessarily get me banned on YouTube or whatever. So go ahead and check that out on locals if you're interested. If not, you can just listen to the text, because this text, it embodies so much of, it's like every single sentence is an exact or a very essential refutation of why communism and socialism just like doesn't ever work practically on a mass scale. And it shows exactly how some of the ideologies that are present in kind of like our current day discourse and politics, especially in the United States, are trending kind of in this direction of what Alexander Solzhenitsyn experienced in Soviet Russia. And maybe that's saying too much for YouTube, I don't know. But what I want to do is I want to go back and read a couple starred passages that I have here. As you can see, I go through and I highlight a bunch of stuff. And if something's like really important to me, I put a star next to it. So I'm going to reread some of the passages that I read in the previous little Gulag Archipelago exploration, because I think that they give some context to the next part of the text that I'm going to read. So in this chapter in general, Alexander Solzhenitsyn is talking about kind of what constitutes evil doing, and the next part is going to be kind of him inquiring as to or commentating on how such acts were punished or not, or lack punishment or lack thereof in Soviet Russia. So just to give you guys some context, this first starred one line or passage, which is in the previous video: if only it were all so simple. If only there were evil people somewhere insidiously committing evil deeds, and it were necessary only to separate them from the rest of us and destroy them. But the line dividing good and evil cuts through the heart of every human being, and who is willing to destroy a piece of his own heart? To do evil, a human being must first of all believe that what he's doing is good, or else that it's a well-considered act in conformity with natural law. Fortunately, it is in the nature of the human being to seek justification for his actions. For the most ancient times, justice has been a two-part concept. Virtue triumphs and vice is punished. We have been fortunate enough to live in a time when virtue, though it does not triumph, is nonetheless not always tormented by attack dogs. Beaten down, sickly, virtue has now been allowed to enter in all its tatters and sit in the corner as long as it does not raise its voice. However, no one dares say a word about vice. Yes, they did mock virtue, but there was no vice in that. Yes, so and so many millions did get mowed down, but no one was to blame for it. And if someone pipes up, what about those who ... The answer comes from all sides reproachfully and amicably at first. What are you talking about, comrade? Why open old wounds? Then why go... Then they go after you with an oaken club. Shut up. Haven't you had enough yet? You think you've been rehabilitated. In that same period, by 1966, 80,000 Nazi criminals had been convicted in West Germany. And still we choke with anger here. We do not hesitate to devote the subject page after newspaper page and hour after hour of radio time. We even stay after work to attend protest meetings and vote. Too few. 86,000 are too few. In 20 years is too little. It must go on and on. And during that same period in our own country, according to the reports of the Military Collegium of the Supreme Court, about 10 men have been convicted. What takes place beyond the Oder and the Rhine gets us all worked up. What goes on in the environs of Moscow and behind the green fences near Sochi, or the fact that the murderers of our husbands and fathers ride through our streets and we make way for them as they pass, doesn't get us worked up at all, doesn't touch us. That would be, quote, digging up the past, unquote. Meanwhile, if we translate 86,000 West Germans into our own terms, on the basis of a comparative population figures, it would become 250,000. But in a quarter century, we have not tracked down anyone. We have not brought anyone to trial. It is their wounds we are afraid to reopen. Here is a riddle not for us contemporaries to figure out. Why is Germany allowed to punish its evildoers and Russia is not? What kind of disastrous path lies ahead of us if we do not have the chance to purge ourselves of that putrefaction rotting inside our body? What then can Russia teach the world? So, in the German trials, an astonishing phenomenon takes place from time to time. The defendant clasps his head in his hands, refuses to make any defense, and from then on asks no concessions from the court. He says that the presentation of his crimes, revived and once again confronting him, has filled him with revulsion, and he no longer wants to live. That is the ultimate height a trial can attain, when evil is so utterly condemned that even the criminal is revolted by it. We have to condemn publicly the very idea that some people have the right to repress others. In keeping silent about evil, in burying it so deep within us that no sign of it appears on the surface, we are implanting it, and it will rise up 1,000-fold in the future. When we neither punish nor reproach evildoers, we are not simply protecting their trivial old age. We are thereby ripping the foundations of justice from beneath new generations. It is for this reason, and not because of the, quote, weakness of indoctrinational work, unquote, that they are growing up indifferent. The youth, the next generations, are growing up indifferent. Young people are acquiring the conviction that foul deeds are never punished on earth, that they will always bring prosperity. It is going to be uncomfortable, horrible to live in such a country.